ITNation Connect Global 2025. What an event. The largest ITNation of all time, the most attended. I have not personally missed an ITNation since 2007, and that was 100 of us in Tampa. Now it's grown to over 4,000 in Orlando. Incredible breakout sessions. I had the great opportunity to have a speaking session on how MSPs and businesses can grow through media and podcasting. Podcasters Row was the greatest we've ever seen at an event yet. There were studios set out for 8 podcasters, including myself, and the events at night, the concert, the Universal Studios, the vendor hall was incredible, the partner pavilion, I believe it's called. The vendors were fantastic. I was also able to attend the initiation, the first timers. Brad Shaw always invites me to that, and I really enjoy that. Wonderful event. I had the great fortune of having 13 incredible conversations with some incredible guests. Lawrence Cruciana, I've been talking with Lawrence for so long, and we finally got together. Our schedules were such where I actually recorded this in my hotel room the day before. I made a makeshift studio, but Lawrence and I talked for a long time. Incredible insight. Really appreciate Lawrence's perspective, and I look forward to working with him in the future. Stephen Yu, I've known for many years. Their adaptive catalog, the puzzle mindset from chessboards to boardrooms. Always enjoy talking to Stephen. Everything's a puzzle, and he just figures out how to bring it all together. Blake Myers, first time I met Blake there at Blue Mirror, one of my favorite companies to work with. Blake is a very interesting young man. 8 seconds of chaos when bull riding taught a cybersecurity pro. He's got some other interests that are very interesting. Kate Schlarf, which I've had the great fortune of knowing now for a couple years there. Of course, at Movila, again, one of my favorites. Kate and her team had a great booth there, do incredible project management work to help MSPs. I was so glad to get into the cow outfit and to walk around the vendor hall. Great talking with Kate. Mike DePalma, which I've known for a very long time when he was at Datto, Kaseya, now of course at Open Text, building stronger channel partnerships with Mike DePalma. Always great talking with Mike. Christina Klein, my first time talking with Christina there at Landsweeper. Fascinating discussion from DIY remodels to data mastery. I look forward to work with Christina in the future. Wonderful talking with her. MJ Schuer, a fellow New Englander I've known for, 15 plus years. Now at GTIA, we talked about the separation of CompTIA and GTIA and what he does there, how it helps MSPs. Caroline April, another person at GTIA who I didn't know before this, a true journalist that has come over and is now helping GTIA and MSPs. Rick Murphy from Cogent, known Rick for a while, has gone through an incredible transformation himself, but helping MSPs in the M&A space. Christina Carretero. I've known Christina for, 3 or 4 years now. An absolute pleasure. Smart, driven, love to work with. We have a great discussion on what she's doing now there at Arctic Wolf, and have some insight on some students exchange students that she takes in. Really great conversation with Christina. And last, Caroline Goals. Oh my goodness. I've known Caroline since she was at PAX 8. She was at Microsoft before that. Great insight. Really. When I saw her there, I had to take a double take. I said, hey, come be on the podcast, please. And I'm so glad she accepted. Wonderful time there. ITNation 2025 was waiting all year for it, and it seemed to go by in a second. Thanks for watching and listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. excellence. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How did I lose the weight? Just one word, discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission, how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision, growth through learning from others.
So 1,000,000 years ago, I was a front of house audio engineer at Walt Disney.
Really? At Walt Disney?
1,000,000 years ago.
What was that like?
It was exactly what a younger me needed.
I see.
It was an amazing opportunity to learn about business without learning anything about business, if that makes any sense.
How old?
19 to 21.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
And working for the Disney Corporation.
Amazing,
Yeah,
actually. So
should've been.
there are a lot of parallels between Disney and MSP.
Really?
Yeah, you'd never think that, right? But hyper standardization. There's only one way to do things.
Interesting.
You can have your opinion on how things should be done, but that is not how they're going to be done.
Wow.
So it was good. It was good.
A lot of SOPs.
A lot of SOPs. A lot of SOPs. A lot of. Just that there's this like tribal knowledge that is there, and they do an amazing job of taking ordinary people and turning them in to do extraordinary things.
It's amazing.
It is, and it's just this interwoven almost magic, but there's no magic to it. It is hard work and discipline, and it's amazing.
Wow. In this fast-paced MSP landscape, how do you stay ahead? Introducing MSPinfluencer.com, your ultimate hub for MSP news, insights, and community connection, powered by Forza Dash. More than 75,000 MSPs subscribe to our MSP Influencer Pulse weekly newsletter, staying informed and ahead of industry trends. Tune in to emerging podcasts from Joey Pinz and leading MSP voices, offering essential tips, powerful insights, and success stories. Explore our multi-authored blogs, crafted specifically for MSP leaders, delivering fresh perspectives and actionable strategies. Celebrate excellence with the industry-leading Forza MSP Influencer Awards, recognizing innovation, leadership, and impact in the MSP community. Join thousands of MSP professionals who trust MSPinfluencer.com to grow their business and expand their networks. MSPinfluencer.com, where today's MSP leaders connect, collaborate, and conquer, all powered by the Forza platform, helping MSP vendors work effectively with MSPs and helping MSPs grow. Wow. So I'm always amazed. I do Disney with my girls. My daughters are in their 20s now, but like we've been on cruises, and like the ice cream machine will be exhausted and the next one will be ready right away, and within moments it's serving. Right. I mean, it's amazing how fluid things are, and the attention to detail at that company is incredible.
That is the thing that I never. Again, I learned about business without learning about business. And when I was there, that was before there were LEDs. And so there was incandescent light bulbs.
Wow.
And I remember talking to people in the facility services that like did that maintenance. And parks would shut down, and they would have there was one type of incandescent light bulb that was used in all of the different fixtures, right? So there was only, for each style, there was one. And they had done the mean time between failure testing. They knew that when it was replaced, they knew the average lifespan of that. They knew that before the bulb would burn out, it would be replaced.
Wow.
And so to your point, right, it's the attention to detail, in everything. And as a recovering engineer, it was just like it spoke to me.
Yeah.
Right? It spoke to me.
They had one of these tech shows, and I forget which one, but they had the Disney Academy come in, or Disney
Institute?
Institute.
Okay.
So tell us one story about the Cars movie franchise at Disneyland in Los Angeles. So every Christmas, mid-November, they put up telephone poles, and they put up lights, Christmas lights, holiday lights for the Cars area.
Okay.
So the question to us was, there's already telephone poles there, but these new ones that we're putting up temporarily, where do you think we stored them?
Okay.
I don't know. Because we store them outside so they get the same amount of sun as the other ones, so you can't tell the difference between the two.
All right. Again, the attention to detail. Right? It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. So what are laser physics?
I see you're in the background.
Yeah.
So my background, do you remember the 80s movie Real Genius?
Real Genius.
Right, Val Kilmer.
Oh, Val Kilmer was in it.
Yeah,
Yes.
right? So that was my daily life.
Wow.
I was living my wildest dream when I was working professionally in that. Not at the scale that they were, and there were no houses involving popcorn. But there, I was working on characterizing diffractive optics. So a work product that would come out of a clean room, generally a silicon substrate, and very like nanoscale features had been etched into those silicon wafers, and for very particular applications with very particular wavelengths of light and very particular energies. And if they didn't work quite properly, then they would self-destruct, right? They would overheat, they would have some type of failure. And it was my job to take these very finite, small optical elements and zap them with varying wavelengths of laser light at very high powers, very short pulses, and that was my everyday. And leading into that, I had done a lot of work in photonics research around modal dispersion, so characterizing optical fibers.
Wow.
So,
how did you get introduced into this?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I really don't. Like I always thought that lasers were intriguing. Don't know why. Maybe it was just like I was an 80s kid and there were lasers around, and that was like what all the cool kids were doing. I don't know. But what fascinated me was when you shorten the time scale. And when you go from like seconds to microseconds to nanoseconds, and when I got out of it, it was like femtoseconds were like that was the bleeding edge.
Whoa!
But at those time scales, really interesting things happen, and they weren't easily explained, and that's what kept me in it, and like working in the communications space, like I remember, like I developed a Fourier transform analysis that would send a string of pulses down a laser or down an optical fiber, and then a receiver on the other end would analyze those and send back the analysis, and there would effectively be, think of it like a graphic equalizer for electrical signals.
Okay.
And so it would true up what turned into what looked like a sine wave back into a square wave, so that in a digital communication system that it's more usable. Anyways, without getting into all the details, it was fascinating to me that when you shrink the time scales, things that we couldn't explain, that were completely new, would start happening.
Wow.
And it was a puzzle, and I really enjoy puzzles. So
yes, you do.
the work that I did there that led into what we today can appreciate in gigabit and 10 gigabit optics. So like vertical cavity lasers, that is a direct result of some of the work I was doing now 25, 30 years ago.
Wow. But in high school, it'd be tough to get exposed to these kinds of things, correct?
Very much so.
So is it college where these kind of...
well, so high school, I won the International Science and Engineering Fair.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. And that was a really pivotal moment for me, to have no judge less than a PhD.
Wow.
Multiple Nobel laureates.
Wow.
I mean, just the caliber of individual and competition there was something I could have never imagined. That really opened my eyes to the rigor and discipline of where like defensible data and how data is collected and then making the application to that. That really opened my eyes to that, and if you can't tell, like I thought destined for a life in science.
Yes.
And coming out of ISIF, I was a Westinghouse finalist, recognized with a bunch of like really once in a lifetime opportunities.
Wow.
got to take that research and present it at NASA as a shuttle era kid, right? That went over there. It was absolutely surreal to be in a briefing room with scientists, and I got to go to the front of the room.
Wow!
Right? I mean, that was like one of these moments where I was like, all right, this is cool. This is amazing. I thought that was where I was going to be, and right, some 30 years later, nowhere near that now.
So you were in front of NASA scientists in high school?
In high school.
Did they ask a lot of questions?
Amazing questions. And right, it was. Have you ever been in a room, had an experience where you just felt like you were with your people? Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah.
Right. Like everyone resonated with you. They understood your position of where you had come from, and it was like I was in this room with fellow nerds, right? And that they were nerds in their own ways.
Yeah.
But the guys that were doing the work on the shuttle and doing the work on spacecraft, and like they understood these problems, and it was electric. Like that was electric. I was afforded the opportunity to go out and walk on the shuttle landing facility.
Whoa!
Learned about the engineering. It was at the time the flattest piece of concrete on Earth. Right, so they had to take into account the curvature of the Earth.
Wow!
I mean, just wild things that getting like Disney, the attention to detail.
Right.
And so those were just really transformative moments for me. I don't know exactly how I came to like love that. Going back to your original question,
yeah,
I don't know how I came back to love that, but it was it still was a passion of mine. Like I see the work that's being done now, in these multi-hundred gigabit networks, and it's like, all right, there's some scientists, there's some engineers that have done some amazing work.
Amazing.
It is, and you and I get to build things using that technology now.
So after that experience, what happens? Do they invite you back? Do you ever see them again?
No, never got to go back. That was truly a once in a lifetime opportunity. Got to sit in a shuttle that was in the VAB, so in that giant vehicle assembly building.
Yes.
Got to present the research that I was doing. Had an amazing Q&A session. And then like life happens.
Wow.
But went on from optical physics. Went to school. I had gone to school. My mentor here at the University of Central Florida, Peter Delfayette, amazing guy. My mentor. He connected me with a guy in this little school in Charlotte, North Carolina, that was doing some really cool cutting edge work. And he's like, you should talk. And so I agreed to go up there for a weekend and just kind of check it out. And fell in love with what they were doing.
Wow.
And it was nanoscale optics. So etching these silicon wafers where they can be diffractive in nature with constructive and destructive interference patterns again in the nanometers, right? I mean, just like it's just fascinating this tiny scale, and combined with the research I had done in very small time scales. It was kind of a match made in heaven. So went there, studied, started doing work at that company, and that actually is what led me to start my my MSP.
It's amazing, but somewhere in that path, a love of photography, aviation.
Yeah, indeed. So I'm an Air Force kid, and so I grew up with a respect of all things flight. My father was a forward colonel. And he flew strategic bombers. So I remember going out to the flight line at the time McCoy, which is now International or Orlando International, and just got exposed to those things very young.
Wow.
And so getting into that, I think it was just kind of natural. Like I'm pretty sure I was born to go into the Air Force.
Whoa.
Right. I think that was the thing. didn't follow that path, but nonetheless, really fell in love with that. And as I got older, just learning the systems, right? Like, and not just in like avionics and what goes into an aircraft, but like the incredible marvel that it is in our modern air traffic system, right? Like it is just taken for granted, right? You could wake up today and go, I want to go to Japan, and realistically have the expectation of getting there, and what a privilege that is, right? And it's built on hard work and lots of experience. So aviation, absolutely love it. Got into drones, right? I can live vicariously through a drone. And when those first came into the scene, I was just like this is amazing. So doing a little bit of FPV flying now. FPV, first person view. So looking like you're on the drone. So yeah. It's a lot of fun.
So you didn't get a pilot's license?
Not yet. Not yet. I have to. In my logic, I need to be able to afford an aircraft before I can afford the pilot's license.
Interesting.
So because otherwise, I know I'm just gonna spend countless dollars and time renting aircraft.
Yes.
So it's on the bucket list.
Yeah, I say. I got my pilot license about 12 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Really enjoyed it, but it's definitely fallen. You got to keep up with it. That's
right.
The other thing, Lawrence, right? Because if you don't keep up with it, it's a matter of life or death. It can be.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So how did you get into flying?
I wanted to get to golf courses quicker.
I love that. Okay, I love that.
Yeah, I wanted to go. I'm from the Northeast. I wanted to take my kids to the islands quicker, and thought it was a new challenge. I did end up buying a plane, so I practiced on that.
Nice.
But yeah, it just takes a lot of discipline. Now, so you're talking about aviation in the air, but you also went below into the inner world. So scuba is a big passion as well.
It is.
Why?
It is. So I used to be a NAUI scuba instructor.
NAUI.
So it's one of the certifying agencies.
I see.
And so I was a scuba instructor for a number of years. And it was one of those things that I realized that I couldn't focus on it to be a true career. I couldn't give it the attention that it needed. So it turned into kind of this mutual distraction, where it was something I loved. I had a passion for. I had a passion for sharing it with people, but yet I couldn't dedicate enough time to do that to really make it a meaningful career. And so still dive as often as I possibly can.
Really.
And it's again that love for sharing the little stuff. We go through life and it's so comfortable, so convenient for us, right? And you jump in the water, and suddenly you're not at the top of the food chain, but more importantly, you're a guest in this different ecosystem. And it's incredibly fragile, and the rules are totally different. And to spend an hour just observing a fish is something that is a rare privilege that I consider to be a privilege at least. And so love diving. We'll jump in the water whenever possible, and that's usually with the camera. So
photography.
Exactly. So photography. So again, my wife actually turned me on to the smallest of the small things. She had done fish ID for a nonprofit, REEF, the Reef Environmental and Education Foundation, amazing nonprofit down in headquartered down in Key Largo. And their mission is to try to preserve and save as much of the fish species and diversity as possible.
Wow.
And so they do these fish surveys. And it seems like, okay, how do you do a fish survey? And you're literally identifying the fish that you see in a certain area. And my wife has this amazing ability to find the smallest, teeniest, tiniest things, like things that up until that point I never even really paid attention to.
Wow.
And so got kind of got hooked on these tiny little critters that are there. And right, we go to the beach and we swim by them and go snorkeling on a coral reef, and you like, unless you stop and just be there.
Wow.
You'd never notice them. And they are some of the most intriguing little critters that are out there, at least in my opinion.
Amazing. Has technology influenced scuba at all?
Very little.
Really?
Like, surprisingly.
Yeah.
There's always the latest tech.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really interesting question. Right? There's always more tech.
Sure.
I think that if anything, it has driven safety standards, given us more data. But at least from my perspective as a consumer of and user of that gear, I don't know that there's huge innovation. There's definitely innovation. There's definitely new stuff, but not nearly the pace of what you and I do every day.
Yeah, it is interesting how some fields aren't touched or just not touched that much, because in aviation it's changed a lot. It's helped with all the. Has your knowledge of laser physics helped with a lot of these endeavors? Like with I would think with photography would help, just the way light works.
It makes me appreciate it more. It definitely makes me appreciate it more. And the things that we just don't know. Like, there's so much, and it's hard to paint a picture of like what that means. But just being in some of these environments, and you see things and you can't quite explain the things that you see.
Right.
Of just how the interaction is. It's incredible. Even now, like we're now learning the science of how coral bleaching happens.
Coral bleaching.
Right. So as the sea temperatures rise, the corals spit out the algae that helps them live. It's a symbiotic relationship. It's the thing that gives them color. And we're learning about how that works. And like I was just reading that it has been determined that, like, where it was thought to be completely irreversible, that there is a window to be able to save the coral, and it's really around light, right? About the light that is there and the sea temperatures that are there, and it's fascinating, right? Again, all these things that we just never knew.
What I hear recently, 80% of our oceans are still unexplored or something.
I would completely believe that.
Yeah. Got so much to do here on the earth, don't we? And there's so many sciences.
Oh, for sure. And I think there's so much that we just don't know.
We just don't know, yeah. And you talked about the shuttle before, the advances that we're doing there with SpaceX and with SpaceX is Musk. Blue Origin is the other. Yes. Incredible.
It is incredible. Right. Like now it's we're gonna have during this week we're gonna have 2 launches.
Unbelievable.
Right. Like when I was a kid, it was a rare treat.
Right.
It was not a regular thing, and here we are. Right. This week we're gonna have 2 launches.
Incredible. We'll be able to see them from here.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're out of
out of the Cape.
Wow. Absolutely incredible. So we're here. I know Lawrence, we made this makeshift studio here, but
great.
this week is ITNation here in Orlando, ConnectWise ITNation. What are some of your goals this week?
I've been coming to this since it was not much more than like cheese sticks being warmed up over table candles.
Yeah, we talked about this.
And it's incredible to see how much this has grown.
Yeah.
So the goals that I come into this with is to come in with an open mind, to understand a little bit about what others are struggling with. If there's things that I can help that we've accomplished, then help with those. But similarly, I have a list of things that we're struggling with, right? in understanding scale. And really getting to the voice of the customer, hearing beyond what they say, and understanding, evoking business value for our clients. That's so those are some of the things, and of course, right, reconnecting with friends that are here. There are just so many amazing people in this space. And you talk about innovation. It's easy to lean on like what the latest product is or what the latest thing Microsoft's doing. But wow, I mean, the managed services space.
Yes.
Right. Like I often say that it's not the last mile; it's the last 100 feet. And we have to serve these two completely different constituencies. We have our clients who are truly, I believe, struggling to like adapt and adopt technology in a meaningful way that drives business value. But then you have the technology vendors that are just innovating at the pace now of AI, and right, what do we filter? What do we provide? How do we connect business value for our clients? Like really what they need and understanding what they need with the right technology, giving them the right guidance, and in my space, the right security or the right compliance guidance with that as well.
So tell me how, through everything we talked to in your background, where was the jump to security and compliance?
That's a really good question. So I think for me, again, I'm a kind of a Cold War kid. I was raised in a military household. I was raised seeing the product of hard work, and I didn't know that, right? But you see all of the endeavors that have happened in the commercialization of military technology, and the benefits as a society that we've all gotten from these rare moments in time when like Americans just all pull together in the same direction for just a short bit, right? Amazing things happen. And when I started my business, we were doing work for textile companies. Happened to be the three largest textile companies at the time, and they were all innovating, very similar to what happened in the .com boom, right? I mean, it was like Silicon Valley. They were all just going crazy, and recognizing that there was like a risk, right? These big companies that were legends, right? They literally invented the textile business, and they were betting the company on the tech that they were trying to innovate, trying to keep manufacturing jobs here. Like this is right in that pre-NAFTA time, and they were sort of trying to keep jobs here. They were fighting for their life, and they knew they were fighting for their life. And it just occurred to me that it's like, well, like if I wanted to get my hands on this technology, like it would absolutely come through a digital means, right? We have everything in these very old and secure mainframes. And so that it started there. That was a seed. And then fast forward, we had implemented security controls, physical security controls around digital environments. And we had these interesting near misses where it was industrial espionage.
Whoa!
Right, like one of our clients came in and to work, and they none of the computers in the offices worked.
Whoa!
Well, a competitor or someone had infiltrated the cleaning service.
Wow!
And they literally walked out with all of the hard drives and all of the offices.
What year is this?
This is like 98, 99.
Pre-Y2K.
Pre-Y2K. And we had just recently implemented a file server, and centralized everything into a computer room where the mainframe was, and said, the cleaning crew's not allowed to come in this space. And like it was a practical exercise for us. That like all of the keys of the kingdom and the crown jewels are in this one space. We can protect this one space. And then when that happened, that really was this genesis for me.
Wow.
That like there are real risks with the information that we're storing.
Incredible. Did you find out what happened?
No, never found out what happened. Just that like we saw the guard shack tape of this custodian wheeling out a wheelie trash can that was full of presumably hard drives.
Unbelievable.
Picking bags up, putting it back of a car, and driving away. And that was like I said, that was a genesis, and from there, we were operating inside of this textile supply chain. because of the investors that were there and the financial institutions, we started doing work in the financial space. And we saw the very real consequences of the same thing, of what we call today as cybersecurity, in these smaller businesses inside of bank supply chains. And then that just continued, and that led eventually to me finding and literally stumbling across a research paper that was published by SANS on the SANS Top 10. And it was like, a research paper looking at these Fortune 1000 companies and trying to find the things that they're all doing the same in security disciplines. And I was like, wow, there's like a scientific approach. This is meaningful to me. I can get behind this, that someone went and talked to all of these companies and they distilled this list of 10 things that everyone's doing the same.
Wow.
And then there was like risk rating and efficacy scoring, and that's where I think the flywheel really started to turn.
Wow. What if discipline wasn't about punishment, but about unlocking your best self? I spent 2.5 years writing Discipline for Greatness because discipline changed my life. And I know it can change yours too. This isn't theory. Inside, you'll find real, practical steps you can use immediately to focus better, build stronger habits, reduce stress, accomplish your goals, and bring more balance to your life. Whether you're trying to get healthier, improve your career, or simply feel more control, this book gives you the framework. Start today. Grab your copy of Discipline for Greatness at joeypinz.com/book. Thank you.
It's interesting to me how you kind of stumble into these areas and you find out what your passion is and you pursue it. It's a common theme I'm finding.
It is. When you mention it like that, yeah, it is.
Yeah. So you kind of get pushed into security because you were physically, I was going to say assaulted, but you were physically, they physically entered in and took physical equipment. Well, we always think of security as coming in through, digital means.
Right. Well, today we do.
Today we do, yeah, but not then because you weren't actually connected. So where do we get to now with CMMC? How did you make that jump?
And
what is CMMC?
Sure. So CMMC is the Department of Defense's or Department of War now.
Yeah, that's right.
Their cybersecurity maturity model certification. Effectively, it is a third-party certification for defense contractors for their implementation of required cybersecurity rules that are identified under NIST 800-171. And 800-171 is not new. It goes back to like 2016, 2017. But CMMC is, and it's that third-party attestation. This is one of those areas that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
I feel like the genesis of my company, of me as a practitioner, that really it has led to this moment. The fact that we've worked in these regulated industries and financial services and energy and defense adjacent manufacturing for a lot of years. What really was the spark for me was the realizing and learning about the prevalence of what I like to say is the wholesale theft of American ingenuity. The F-22 is commonly pointed at as at this, right?
This is a fighter jet.
A fighter jet that the plans for that were stolen by the Chinese, purportedly through a small business in Minnesota. And the story of that genesis story of CMMC there is interesting, but it's been happening for a long time. So I guess about 2017, 2018, we were doing a lot of work with security assessments, and we were working in high consequence environments, a lot of manufacturing environments where there was actual kinetic risk. And we would very commonly come in, and we wouldn't be an MSP. We would be a security auditor. And one instance that I point to, because I think it was really a spark for me there, We came into an operation that was had top secret information, had air gap networks, and they were making equipment and systems that, if the details got out, American lives would most certainly be lost.
Wow. Oh no.
And it's one of those things where it's like you come into environments and you're like, all right, this is like, we have to put the big boy pants on.
Right.
It was one of those.
Wow.
And we came in because they were getting ready to start up another manufacturing line for similarly sensitive equipment, and we were brought in just to make sure that the cyber was the security was tight. And to make a long and kind of interesting story short, we came in. They had a large super regional MSP that was their managed service provider, an MSP that had an incredible reputation, still has a very solid reputation, we found that in the air gap network, the MSP had physically connected a wire.
Whoa.
And they were using an outsourced offshore back office company to do their server administration. And they had installed those agents on these air gapped servers and systems. And we identified this, kind of freaked out.
Yeah.
And it went very quickly to the highest levels of the MSP. And they saw nothing wrong. They saw that they had done nothing wrong because it wasn't out of any malicious intent. It was out of just ignorance that the security consequences and the requirements of those systems went beyond antivirus and firewalls and strong passwords. And so that kind of keyed me in that, right, maybe this kind of cybersecurity, the work that we had been doing for 15 years at that point in time, in these high consequence environments, maybe that wasn't really common.
Interesting.
And then fast forward just a little while longer, and the DoD came out with CMMC 1.0, and I was like, well, this is good. This is going to require like third party certification that you're gonna have an auditor come in. It's like, this maybe will stem some of this. And I should go back, because coming out of that experience, I looked pretty broadly across the industry, and I was curious to see if in fact, like, that ignorance was commonplace.
Interesting.
And so the way that I went about doing that was we would run these security assessments, and we would get data, and very commonly it was all done through the lens of the CIS Controls, and very commonly we would see this data, and there would be, like, if you plot on a radar plot, there'd be like certain controls that were like notably weaker. Inevitably, the organizations that we were doing these assessments with, they would point to their MSP and say, "Oh, our MSP does that." And to my knowledge, but up to that point, no one had looked at the MSPs. And so I reached out actually through this community to about 300 MSPs that I knew. I said, "Listen, I want you to participate in this assessment. It's gonna, we're gonna go through CIS Controls, complete confidentiality. Your name won't even be identified in the result, but you'll get the result. You'll get your results." And we participate. And about 300 said yes.
Wow.
And a interesting and dangerous thing came of that. That same radar plot where there were weaknesses identified in those businesses were commonly the same weaknesses that were existing in MSPs.
Wow.
And the MSPs were not aware of them. Similarly, the customers, their clients, were not aware of them. And everyone was pointing back to the MSP, and the MSP didn't know that they were being pointed to.
Wow.
And so that resulted actually in one of the first supply chain talks that I did at RSA back in, I think it was 2017.
RSA, the
big cybersecurity conference.
The biggest.
Biggest one on the planet, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
I was the first little tiny MSP to take that stage.
Wow.
And I shared some of these stories, and I got two very polar opposite responses from the audience, because my purpose there was, like, as enterprise, because this is all enterprise,
Yeah.
right? It's enterprise and government. It's like, as enterprise, this exists in your supply chain. These stories are in your supply chain. You have the resources to help these people out. You have the resources to raise the tide and help everyone out. And I got two very opposite responses there. I had one in which they were like, how could we do this? Like, this is a good idea. We didn't know that this was a problem. And in enterprise, they think that small businesses somehow have like 20-person cybersecurity and incident response teams and all of these professionals. And absolutely their MSPs do. They had like the concept of something like an always-on connection with our RMM blew their minds. Right? That was just not
remote
management and
monitoring.
Yes, the ability to remotely access a customer's computer without their knowledge or interaction. That was just mind-blowing. They're like, there's no way people will let that happen. It's like every day.
Every day.
And so I had companies that were like, how can we help? Let's strategize on that. And I had others that were like, not our problem. You know what? It's just not our problem. Fast forward a couple of years, we get SolarWinds. SolarWinds happens.
The biggest. Well, I don't know if it's the biggest, but one of the big, maybe the biggest. Kaseya? I don't know.
Yeah, right. One of the biggest.
One of the largest
supply
attacks.
chain attacks.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, supply chain security got cool, like almost overnight.
Wow. Takes one big incident, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
And like I was part of the OPM breach. The Office of Personnel Management, when like all of the top secret clearance applications got leaked. Right, all military personnel, anyone who had a clearance, that got leaked. I thought for sure that was going to be the cyber Pearl Harbor. I thought for sure that like
the cyber Pearl Harbor,
that like the government would flex their muscle and say no more. Didn't happen that way. SolarWinds happened. Didn't happen that way.
Wow.
And so to get back to your original question, CMMC, I saw these things happening. And I saw consistently in the environments that we were in, incredibly poor security practices. I would see these, we would do these assessments, and it was just like, I was gobsmacked. Wow. Foreign nationals having access to sensitive information, no logging of remote access connections, no disclosure that remote access was happening.
Wow.
Screen recording happening, and no one knowing it. I mean, and the list goes on.
RDP, right?
Yeah, all these things. Like the list is, it was just innumerable. And when CMMC came around, I said, maybe I can do something to put a positive dent in this industry. Maybe I can do something in my own little way because of the genesis and experience that I've had in the manufacturing, in these high consequence environments. Maybe I can take those lessons learned and I can apply them. And maybe, just maybe, I can do a little piece to stop that wholesale theft of American ingenuity. And as I've gotten into this space, I had the privilege to meet just some amazing people.
Yeah.
I mean, these small businesses that are making stuff that is, it's like it was 10 years ago, would have been sci-fi.
Yeah.
And it is really the privilege of my career to be able to say, like, we're going to make it hard. We're going to make it hard for the adversaries to steal this. And maybe for once go a little bit on the offense, as opposed to constantly just taking it and being abused.
So in the MSP's defense, Lawrence, the RMM, this tool goes out and it just finds places to install the agent on. Sometimes they just don't really, just kind of let it go, and they shouldn't be that way, because it ends up putting stuff, agents on things that shouldn't.
Indeed, and I think the cybersecurity knowledge, right, just the common level of knowledge in the MSP space over the last 5 years has quintupled. 5 years ago, and if you think 5 years ago, we were talking about cybersecurity, but everyone was talking about making it easy, right? IT was easy. You called the MSP to make your job easy. and often easy does not equate to secure. And so to your point, right? We're going to install RMM on everything. It'll be easy for us to help
we'll
you
get alerts.
Yeah,
we'll get visibility.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But what do you do with the alerts? Right? Like, do you have qualified people?
Positives.
Yeah. Do you have qualified people to look at the alerts? Like, have you done any kind of like data inventory? I think it was maybe 3 years ago was the first time at this conference that I can recall someone talking about actually classifying the information your clients have. Right? Nothing to do with your agents and your RMM and your tooling and the latest whiz-bang agent to deploy. It was, have you sat down and had a conversation with your clients to ask them what regulatory guidance and requirements do they have, and where is that data? And like that has been common in enterprise forever, but it kind of was one of the things that kind of fell between the cracks because it's hard to do. And it's hard to monetize, and you have to always do it. And you're often telling your clients no. I mean that's one of the things that I think is the most struggling is at least for me is we talk to these businesses and they're like, oh, we want to do this great thing, and it's like whiz bang, and it has all this information, and we're going to put it in blah blah blah, and everyone can have access to it. And it's like, that's a bad idea, right? Because we bring that almost contrarian lens of viewing that from the perspective of an attacker and saying, yeah, that's a bad idea. Wow. How about we find some other ways to do that? But my point there is I think that the cybersecurity just awareness, the level of knowledge that is in this space, it's growing. Yeah. There's a thirst and a desire for it. I've heard so many times a disparaging view of MSPs. Right, you can go to almost any subreddit. Often even the MSP subreddit, but you can go to almost any subreddit, and someone is bemoaning how terrible their MSP is. My experience after a couple of decades in this business is that the people that are here, the people that self-select themselves to come to conferences like this, that self-select themselves to be exposed to the trading and be okay with change, they want to make this better.
Wow.
And I think that's the important part, is they want to make this better. It's just a long, long road to get there.
Why work with MSPs, Lawrence, and that work with SMBs? What do you like about it?
I like the fact that these folk come up with some of the most amazing ideas, and they go, yeah, we can do that. And they just do it, right? They literally turn ideas into reality. And they're agile and innovative, and one of our clients is a manufacturer, and they have a group of CBs, right? Former Navy guys that are CBs. They go and build bridges where you can't build a bridge, and they're just like the guys that go out and do it. And they have retired CBs that are on their.
I don't know the term CBs.
They're like the manufacturers of the Navy.
I see.
And literally, like if you need a bridge built over somewhere you can't build a bridge, and you need it in like 7 hours, these guys will figure a way to get a whole brigade of tanks over a river in no time. It's amazing. Wow. Just truly can do. And they have. Some of the most incredibly tight tolerances for these manufacturing machines. And it was like one of the problems that they solved was there was this ultra low frequency harmonic that was happening on these huge multi-ton CNC machines. And,
CNC.
It's a computer controlled manufacturing system. Sorry, I speak an acronym. But they had this low frequency harmonic that was there, and they're like, there's millions of dollars, and they're gonna have to shut the line down and do all this, and a couple of these CBs were like, no, I think we can solve that problem.
Wow.
And they did. And it was just good old fashioned can do. Let's try it before we like shut the building down and do all this work. And they did it. And I hear those stories, and it's like, oh, that's amazing.
You think of MSPs.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's very much like MSPs, right? Like that's the thing with MSPs that I love. Like I'll come to these conferences, and someone's like, oh, we had this like terrible problem. Right, all the existing tools just didn't work. So we wrote some code and we wrote a script and we glued everything together, and it was bubblegum and duct tape, but we accomplished the thing that our customer needed. And I'm like, yes. That's what it's about, right? We got something done. So why SMBs? It's that can-do attitude. It's the fact of like where they plug into the supply chain. They provide elasticity into the Department of Defense, and frankly, they come up with some of the best ideas.
I talk to MSPs every day. I'm a former MSP, and just generally speaking, the three things that keep them up at night has been consistent over the last 5 or 6 years. One, of course, being cybersecurity. If their clients get attacked, they're going to have to allocate more resources. They're fixed rate. They're going to lose money. They're probably going to be fired. They may even get sued.
Right.
Two is just human capital. How am I going to keep my techs? How am I going to get better ones if they, when I grow, just keeping them happy, keeping them thirsty, keeping them hungry. And then third is just general growth. Private equity has poured in hundreds of millions of dollars. You see how valuable, how they have validated in some ways our industry by pouring in all this money, and they're growing. Their friends are selling their MSPs, getting nice cars. How am I going to grow mine organically to be more attractive there?
Right.
So those three things generally keep them up at night. Thoughts?
I think you're spot on.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on. And I think the one I would add in there is the unknown unknowns, right? Like we have the knowns, but in this business, right? Every month there's a new patch window.
Yeah.
Every month there's a feature wave that gets pushed to M365. It is amazing to me the sheer number of people who find out what changed on Microsoft, and fill in the blank, and just one vendor, but because of a subreddit, because one person takes the time to cultivate all of the things that are changing and publish it, and there's a lot of unknown in that. And I think that is there, and there's a certain amount of like excitement. It's still kind of Wild West, but I believe that you're right that we have professional business people that are professionals at the business of business, being those in private equity and venture-backed firms that have come into into these organizations, into this industry, and they have validated. Right, they've validated what works, what doesn't, what actually drives value, both for their interests, but also for the interests of the business. And your take is spot on. I mean, you talk with so many people. It's like I think that you have a much better perspective on that than I do.
It's fascinating to me too, Lawrence. We've taken this much time. We haven't brought up artificial intelligence and large language models. Right. How's that possible?
Because we're having a real conversation.
Yeah, it is true. So how has it affected security?
Oh, wow. Well, I think so. Maybe 3 years ago, I remember coming out of a session with some true industry leaders.
Yes.
At RSA. And they were foretelling of this coming wave of AI-fueled social engineering, the likes of which nothing had ever been experienced before. And I remember leaving that going, all right, it's plausible. I don't see the tech, but it's plausible. And I wouldn't say a feeling of dread, but a feeling of, well, now what? Right? Did the world just change?
Interesting.
And right, that didn't happen.
Right.
I think it is happening now.
Yeah.
I remember we started about 2 or 3 years ago. We started getting AI-fueled Gmail phishing campaigns that were incredibly targeted. Incredibly effective. Where an external adversarial AI, maybe not truly an LLM, but definitely a machine learning model, was training mail filters. And so it was training mail filters to allow its malicious payloads to get through.
Unbelievable.
And I remember seeing that going, all right, we have to pay attention to that. And now I think the last statistic that I saw, which I believe is reasonably credible, was the breakout time from foothold to exploitation is now under 40 minutes.
Whoa.
And that's, that not that long ago was like that dwell time was in a year. It was in the hundreds of days, and now we're in minutes. And I would argue that really is probably high. I think it's very likely in many environments seconds.
Wow.
So I think that we have to fight fire with fire. I think that we need, as an industry, to lean on the automated tooling that we have. I'm a very strong proponent of frameworks. As we've already talked about, like I'm an active and avid practitioner and advocate for the CIS Controls. Right, there's still a lot of low hanging fruit. I mean, there's millions and millions of systems that are out there that have very low hanging fruit. And if we can use frameworks to make it more difficult, and then once we've exhausted the simple stuff, then we move up stack into more difficult things. But then really leaning on that continuous evaluation of security posture, continuous vulnerability analysis, and I think that's how we're going to start to combat some of the AI fueled nightmares that we see developing on the horizon. I will say, I think that AI is not something to be scared of.
Yes.
I think that it is truly one of the most transformative technologies that I've seen in my life. I mean, just the fact that we see the access to effectively the sum of all human knowledge.
Amazing.
At our fingertips,
Yes.
and we can ask and query that and manipulate that and learn from it. That's amazing. I think it was probably best said about, I guess it's probably been about 5 years, but the BBC did a really interesting panel in which they brought some computer scientists, theologians, and philosophers, like those that really focus on ethics. And they were talking about like the effect of this thing, this artificial intelligence coming into being. And where that panel landed was that there would be a values inversion with, where humans that do human things will become the most valuable. Like that is where the value will be. That information will become a commodity. And it's really that, it's that inverse, right? Like today we value those who have professional experience. In the future, we may not value that, right? Because we can query all of the professional experience through a machine, and so I think that the AI poses some amazing opportunities, truly amazing opportunities, and I think we're just coming in to start thinking about,
right?
Much less if you start. You throw in things like quantum computing and the ability to solve incredibly difficult math problems, or having quantum entangled computers that can span and in theory do the same computation great distances apart in atomic lockstep. I mean, really, it's something out of sci-fi.
Wow.
And it's happening in our lifetime. It's just an amazing time to be alive.
It is exciting. Yeah, I hear a lot of cynicism, but I'm certainly more optimistic. And out of those three things that keep MSPs at night, I think that AI can help in all three.
Oh, I would agree. I would absolutely agree. Years ago, I read a book called Microslices, and one of the things that it proselytized, I'll use that word,
Sure.
is that in the future, and it was the thesis of the book is really around APIs and supervisory APIs and having hyper specialized APIs to do things.
Application program interface.
Yes, thank you. So that hyper specialized APIs and having supervisory APIs, you can understand what each of those specialized APIs capabilities are, and that a user, a consumer of that, would be able to, overly simplifying it, a CEO could ask their alarm clock in the morning, I think we need to have growth through acquisition. This is the kind of company that I think we need to acquire. What do you think? And in seconds, that it would be able to go out, query all of this information, and come back with either a supportive or contrarian thesis. Right, better than any human consulting firm ever possibly could. And I think like that reality is coming into play. I think that the ability to upskill our people, to train our people, to meet our people where they are. One of the things I've learned in my time in this business is that people communicate in different ways. And just because people don't communicate in the same way that I necessarily do or a client necessarily does, it doesn't mean that they're not making effort to be communicative or that they have any diminishment of their value in the conversation. We just have to figure out how to talk to each other. And I think AI can help like an omni-channel, right? In all aspects of that. I think that we're coming into the ability to have going beyond the hyper-connectedness that we have today. I believe that having things like augmented reality, where it's information on demand at whatever level you wish it to be, that becoming available, again, going to teaching people, like training our people, helping our people learn new things. I think that is coming into the realm of being, and certainly, you know, like we've heard for at least 3 years here from the main stage that level 1 help desk was going to be a thing of the past.
Yeah.
I think it's finally coming to be where we're giving arms to our AI overlords. Right, we're giving them the ability to do things, to take actions on our behalf. And I think that rather than saying, oh, like everyone who's a level one technician, man, they're just out of a job. I think that the job just needs to change. And I think that like what they can do, going back to kind of our earlier conversation here, right, it's that last 100 feet, right? That if those level 1 technicians understand what their end users need, what do they need to accomplish, and they have now the sum of all technical knowledge available to them at their disposal to wield toward that, that's an incredible advantage. And at least my experience in the techs that work with me, they're the most helpful, they're the most innovative people that I know. They have a desire to help that end user, to help that customer accomplish a goal. And often they're limited, right? They don't know what's available to them to do. I think this is going to be like completely game changing to give them that.
Last time we talked, Lawrence, you talked about how the government itself, the federal government, doesn't know MSPs are around.
A thing, yeah.
And you were doing some work there. Can you talk about it?
Sure. So 2.5 years ago, as part of the CMMC initiative, the government was surprisingly shocked to learn that there were small businesses that didn't have teams of IT professionals on staff, and that there was this entire outsourced model. And in CMMC parlance, that turned into an ESP, or an external service provider, because we needed another TLA, another 3-letter acronym. Sorry, right? And so, right, that's what we needed. And, so the government, I think, did a really good job through NIST. And they looked broadly and they asked the question of like, what is this? What do you speak of? And they learned that, MSPs actually are a thing. And so that was codified as an ESP. It's an organization that does not store, process, or transmit controlled unclassified information, but yet still has privileged access to systems that do. And there's some tests that go along with that.
Wow.
But so it was fascinating that in the late stages of operationalizing CMMC, they had no idea that MSPs existed.
Amazing.
Now they've changed that, but it's still like CMMC by itself is not made for MSPs.
Really?
It is not made for this business model at all. We've done, and many others have done a good job of adapting to that, but it was not made for this business model. There's very little ability to scale efficiently. It is a lot of rigorous process, as you'd kind of want it to be.
Yes, of course. You don't want it to be simple and easy. But there are some states that are like adopting MSP taxes.
I've seen that. The thing that I think is probably is more interesting to me, and again maybe because my view is on the risk side, but the states that are adopting now the safe harbor laws, and right, so that they're affording the corporations that are domiciled there, and by way the MSPs that are domiciled there, safe harbor. If they make commercially reasonable means by which to comply with one of the recognized cybersecurity frameworks, like the CIS Controls. Most recently, Texas adopted this. And Texas, big place,
Yes.
huge economy, lots of different industries that are there, a lot of old industries that are there. That was a huge win, I think, for the MSPs, that now they can go into things that keep them up at night. How can I reasonably defend myself? Well, if you adopt and meaningfully implement and show evidence, not just one time, but all the time, of complying with a recognized cybersecurity framework, it gives them some safe harbor.
And why is it important that the state and the federal governments know about MSPs?
We could talk about for hours.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and again, one man's perspective,
Yes.
in the trenches, I think at the federal level, I think understanding what the ecosystem is, what the reality is of the contractors that make up the defense industrial base. If they don't understand that their reality, their operational reality, right, they could legislate them out of business.
Wow.
They could make it so difficult to do business with the government that only large enterprise contractors can meet those requirements. So I think that they need to understand that. And I think similarly at the state level, not CMMC, right? But at the state level, around 80% of the LTT, the local, tribal, and territorial governments, about 80% of them use MSPs in one form or another. About 84% in small business, so slightly lower, but not much. But similarly, right, if they don't understand how the gears of government are being supported, how that last 100 feet of technology is being deployed, how it's being supported, they could make rules that would be very damaging to not just the MSPs, but also to their the very nature of the government itself. And I've learned that the government actually can make rules to hurt itself.
Wow, yeah. Yes,
Which
it can.
seems, disingenuous.
Yeah, we're experiencing that now.
Yes, we are.
There are some organizations that claim or do represent MSPs to the federal government now. Is that correct?
To a point, yes. So in the CMMC space, we're part of an organization called the MSP Collective. And the MSP Collective is a group of CMMC Level 2 certified organizations that are really here to stand up and be the voice and advocacy for the MSP space in these high consequence environments inside of the defense industrial base and in critical infrastructure. So NERC, SIP, energy, natural gas, things like that.
Wow. So should MSPs make an effort to join such organizations?
That's a solid question. I think right, there's association fatigue. There's an association for everything.
Yeah.
Right. There really is an association for everything.
Yes.
I think it really goes back to the business question. Who are the MSPs serving? Who are their clients? What business are they in? I've had the privilege and I would say the opportunity to speak with MSPs that were considering CMMC, and they had one client, right? One manufacturer, one client that was subject to it, and I'm an open book. I'll share our experiences, what it cost, all the
Sure.
pain, and that's what it was. It was completely transformative. I share that with them, and they're like, "Yeah, that's just not worth it for one customer."
Right.
But on the other side of that, I've spoken with MSPs that their only business is state and local government, and their advocacy in state ramp and the state ramp certification. It's those organizations need that experience. organizations that are very broad, like GTIA. I think GTIA does an amazing job of advocacy at the national level. So rather than being super specialized, I would say like where are their businesses, what business are they in, who are they serving, and then get involved in those organizations and get involved. I mean, the thing that is astounding to me in the way that the federal rulemaking process works. The government will put out a proposed rule, and they put it out there for public comment. And you would think, right, these rules are transformative for the 100,000+ entities that are in the defense industrial base. There are dozens, not hundreds, not thousands, only dozens of comments that got back to the DoD for the most recent rule.
Really?
And you think about that, right? That's the only voice that they hear. And every rule has the same process, not just the DoD. And so if these MSPs are working in this space, if they're working in aviation, look for the FAA rules that are being proposed. Get involved, make your voice heard. It doesn't cost anything, it takes time. But make your voice heard so that that the government, the state agencies, that they hear our experience. Right? If they don't know that we exist, if they don't know how we work, if they don't know what can and cannot work in our business models, then they're going to make rules in a vacuum. And once those rules are made, we all have to live with them.
Is it a matter of time, Lawrence, before every MSP must adopt a CMMC similar type framework?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm not sure I want to go on the record claiming that, because I may not make it downstairs. Might get taken out in the hall.
It's a big undertaking.
It is. It's a huge undertaking. I think that the barrier to entry today is incredibly low to be an MSP. Right. A business card, maybe even a business registration,
right, and
an RMM subscription. It doesn't take much, but with that comes incredibly great power. Right. Once we're handed the keys to an RMM, and we install that first agent, right, we have now inextricably tied ourselves with that client that we installed that agent to. We are given privileged access. We're given all of these things. I think that there is a barrier that's needed. I think there is a minimum cybersecurity barrier that's needed, because where it is today, very unpopular opinion. So I will say, don't throw anything at me. But I do believe that that there needs to be like a cybersecurity minimum, a third party, maybe even first party to a certain volume, but a certification of yes, we're meeting these requirements. We've done these things. We understand the risk, and that risk is also communicated with the clients. So often, I did a presentation this year at RSA, and part of that presentation, we talked about the fact that there was this always on RMM, and again, enterprises were like, there's no way that would be allowed. Yes, it is. In every small business.
Right.
Right. That's an incredible power.
Yeah.
Right. No matter where that endpoint is, you have remote access to it. I mean, right. I'll quote Sun Tzu here: with great power comes great responsibility. Yes. Or Spider-Man, depending on right, depending on your ilk.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing, right? Yeah, right. So I think it's going to be eventually. I think that the barrier is going to be raised. I think it's going to happen through the insurance companies. I think it's going to happen through state regulators. Hopefully not through litigation.
Right.
But they say that right. Everything in a safety manual is written in blood. And I think the same thing here. Like we see the experiences, we see the the litigation that's happening in the DoD space. We see the False Claims Act being invoked. Right, it's a Civil War era law, and the False Claims Act is now being invoked on organizations that said that they were doing these cybersecurity things, and then they found out that they weren't. The government found out that they weren't, and now they're coming back to them and saying, "No, you owe us some money because that was it was a false claim." So I think that the precedent is there. I think that the legal framework and structure is there. If we let that happen as an industry, I don't know. And I think the way to get in front of that is to like raise the tide, like really raise the tide, so that the common things that we do as MSPs, whether they are required because our tooling or our vendors require it, or they're required because we have chosen to pursue that and undertake those hard things. However they're accomplished, but they're accomplished, and that we can stem the MSP involved, the supply chain involved attacks that up until this point have been wildly successful.
What's the difference between an MSP and an MSSP?
A couple years ago, I could answer that question. I don't think I can answer that now.
Why?
Right, there used to be a barrier of like that they had an MSSP had a security operations center, and they had specialized experience. And now I see organizations advertising themselves as MSSPs, and they also have no security operations center. They have no security personnel. They have no specialized. They're outsourcing absolutely everything.
Right.
But they're an MSSP.
And the extra X stands for security.
It does.
I talk to vendors all the time, Lawrence, and they say, well, we want to talk to MSPs that specialize in security. And my answer is, I don't know any MSP who doesn't worry about security.
100%.
It keeps them up at night.
100%.
It's outsourced IT.
Right.
And he goes, yeah, but we don't, if they just focus on phones, we don't want them. I said, I don't know where so I have to educate them on what an MSP is,
right.
Obviously.
Of course.
The client wants one throat to choke, and it's the MSP for all things
For everything.
IT.
That's right.
Hard to deal with that. Hard to educate them on that.
Oh, for sure. For sure, and I think it's growing increasingly difficult.
Yes,
right with the fact that right you look at right in the like the ConnectWise ecosystem or the Kaseya ecosystem, right? These vendors have all the solutions.
Yes,
right. I mean, they have made it their life's mission
yes,
to ensure that they have all of the things in one umbrella. And as a new MSP, right, you could show up, sign up, and have this amazing suite of services, and I think going to the point earlier, like I think that the awareness, right, the awareness that there are like cybersecurity implications for all of these great things, it's emerging, it's developing, and I've known more than one MSP where they go, oh, we have this great thing, and then they go, wait a minute. It can do all this stuff, and it doesn't have like these minimum gates. Yeah, maybe we're not going to use that, right?
Right.
But no, you're right. Like the vendors have, right, there's a Swiss Army knife for absolutely everything.
Yes.
I remember a couple years ago, right? We were talking about voice impersonation, and right, there was a company called Pindrop, and Pindrop was building this like AI detection in real time for call centers, and I mentioned it at an MSP conference to someone who does VoIP, like that's their thing. They're like, oh, that's only for like really big call centers. That's like really not a thing. And here it is, right? Like I understand that it is in the SMB space now, and like sentiment analysis. I mean, all these things are in this ecosystem, and that like so you're introducing things that have privacy implications. Wow, right? I mean, it's a very very long and interconnected thread.
It's tough to be an MSP now.
It is, and at the same time, it's an amazing time to be an MSP. Right. I mean, like we're talking about AI and the empowerment that it brings. It's I think a great time for that. I think it's hard because as a business owner, there's more risk, and the risk is not just ransomware. I used to say it's easy to plan for the building to burn down because it's easy to plan for the building to burn down, right? Everyone has commercial insurance. We think about that, right? We can wrap our head around like physical destruction of a thing, but what about like corruption of data or manipulation of data? And right, like as those themes percolate, right? That's where like MSPs have, yes, a worry, a concern, because to your point, all things IT, but then also what an amazing opportunity, right? Like you can use that one-to-many, that waterfall relationship that makes an MSP an MSP, and not just impact one business. You can impact hundreds of businesses, right? You can safeguard hundreds of businesses against a threat that those businesses may never have even thought of, right? Because those businesses and those business owners are busy making their widgets and doing whatever they do, and so it's a privilege to be an MSP.
Yeah,
right now.
sure is. Lawrence, when you're looking at a problem and you're trying to create a solution, how much of it is science versus art? I see your background, physics, just a lot of science there, of course, in front of NASA, but you're also a photographer and scuba. So do you approach it more science than art, you think?
I think I approach it in a data-driven way.
That's science.
And so I lean on the fact that we as a society have everything that we have. It was built on the shoulders of others, right? The things that our predecessors did and that they made, and that the problems that they solved, we don't have to solve again.
Yes.
And so to that question, I would say, like the data, the information that's there, I approach it from, is there a standard that has been developed for this? Again, on the shoulders of others. Is there a framework that we can use in which to make the application for this problem set? Does it fit? Has the problem been solved before? Quite often it has. And then also, like, what does the data tell us? Like, do we have the mechanisms and the telemetry to like meaningfully quantify what the problem is? And if we don't, then let's get that first, so that we can then go back to kind of point one and point two. And if it's a truly a novel problem, like that's the thing that I love. I get excited about truly novel problems, which might be one of the reasons I got drawn to CMMC. I don't know. Right? It's a difficult problem. But if it's truly a novel problem, then that's really that scientific approach of test, like hypothesize, test, measure, quantify, conclude. Right, that's where that comes in.
Do you ever ask your gut?
Yeah, all the time.
And how do you know when to?
I don't know. How do any of us know when to?
So you use science to a certain point, and if that doesn't solve the solution, you go to your gut?
To a point. I mean, right? You owned an MSP. Right?
Yeah.
You know, like there are certain situations you walk into it, and I can imagine you've run into them, and you go like, it just doesn't feel right.
Right.
Right. Like the blinking lights don't tell me a story. There's something more here. And I've been privileged to work in some very high consequence environments. And there are times that it doesn't feel right. And it at least gives me pause. Right. It at least gives me pause.
Yeah, and you know when to trust. So I play golf, Lawrence. It's too much, by the way. And so if I'm at like 150 yards, and there's an even lie, the pin's in the middle, there's a slight breeze, it's calling 8-iron. But
right.
but I'm not swinging very well today, and I'm going to use my 7 and check it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I get the facts, and then I kind of let maybe those last 100 feet you talked about, let the gut take over. Not in every decision,
right.
but on something like that, perhaps.
Oh, indeed. And right, that's where your voice and your inner voice and your experience come in. And I think that's the thing that in my everyday, there's a copious amount of data, and the data can lead us to conclusions. And sometimes those conclusions may be nonsensical, and that's then where that gut comes in.
Yeah.
Like, all right, A plus B does not equal C.
Not all the time. Yeah. Has there been anything in the last month or so, Lawrence? I don't know, 60 days that you changed your mind on?
All the time, all the time. let's see, the alien origin of 3i Atlas.
Oh yes.
Right. So fascinating, right? There's something more there, but we don't understand it.
No.
But I believe it is still a natural phenomenon. I think the intentionality of the DoD. Right, like I hate to say government intelligence, but at the same time, right, like the intentionality of the DoD, like sticking to their guns. Like I knew that I knew that they would, but there was a feel where it's like this it absolutely stands the potential to disrupt the supply chain.
Wow,
like that's real. I don't know. And no, sure enough, they've absolutely stuck with their guns.
good.
So yeah, all the time.
It's important.
It is. It is. I believe in strong conviction, but I also believe in listening to the wisdom of others.
Given new evidence, I'd like to think that I would change my mind on it. Yeah, and to stay open like that. So I started the MSP in the 90s, Lawrence, and I think you know my story. And I was working 14, 16-hour days. You're no stranger to this. And putting diet and exercise in the back and, not eating well. Next thing I know, I'm in front of the doctor. She tells me I'm at 340 pounds. So
Wow.
I had gained all this terrible weight.
Wow.
I felt big, but I didn't think I was that.
Right.
She says to me, look, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. My daughter was just born.
Okay.
Scared the life out of me. Next 6, 7 months, I'm driving home, punching the steering wheel. I did this to myself. I can do whatever I want to me, but I've got something bigger now, Lawrence. I got this family.
100%.
Next 6, 7 months, I lost about 130 pounds, and I kept it off. And, you can't look at these things like a finishing line, right? You've got to continue with them, lifelong changes. So when I tell people this, they always say, what's your secret? And there's no secret. I just say discipline, focus, willpower, motivation. How does discipline play a role in your life?
Oh, what an amazing question. I love that question. By the way, congratulations.
Thanks.
I had a similar story, similar
Really?
experience. I looked at myself in a picture and I was like, man, I'm not the fat kid.
Whoa.
And it was exactly the same thing, right? My motivator was my children, my wife. And I said, man, that's just not me. And it was exactly the trappings that you said, right?
Yeah.
It was I've always been blessed to not have to sleep a lot. So it was like 16 to 20 hour days.
Whoa.
And it was just easy, right? Like I was solving problems. At that time, I had just completed a domain generating algorithm machine learning detection element.
Whoa.
And I was super excited because we were getting all this data and all this telemetry, and we were having like positive hits. And I'm like, man, this is gonna make a positive difference in the world. This is great. And exactly the same thing. Like I diet and exercise went out the door, and yeah, I was like, that's just not me.
Wow.
So I'll actually relate to. So I think discipline is it starts inside. Right, there has to be something bigger than at least in my experience and my perspective on it. That discipline it comes from something bigger inside. It might be like what you said, like seeing your daughter graduate, or the importance of your family, or selling your business, whatever it is, and so I think like finding that drive or that motivation is important, and then understanding like what does it actually mean? It's doing the thing, doing the hard thing, or as I'll say, like embracing the suck. That regiment, that discipline it's the 4:30 a.m. I really need to read this book that I'm procrastinating on, or getting a report. I guess it's the simple things. But earlier in my life, I was a competitive speed skater, and long distance, right? And I was never one of the fastest guys. I was fast, but like it was marathon plus distances that I skated.
Wow.
And the discipline there was something that my coach said back then was you always train for 4 times whatever it is that you're competing with. And so if I'm skating a marathon, that means I'm training at 100-mile distances.
Wow.
That takes time and that takes space. And what I did was I was never the fastest guy, but I was the most consistent. I was the one that could find a pace, set the pace, and commit to that pace to get across the finish line. And so I took from that a lot of lessons around having like the internal drive, the willpower to know when you're getting burned out, right? Know when, like for me, it's a self-deprecating voice, right? It's the, oh, you don't have to, like, you know, you've been doing this for 20 years. You can just kind of like phone it in a couple of times. And having that willpower and that discipline to like punch that voice in the face and to say, no, like that's not who I'm going to be. That's not what I'm here for. That's not what I'm going to be known for. And so finding that fire inside. And for me, that even still to this day, I don't skate competitively anymore. But it's still like, you know, getting home at 6:30 going, man, I don't have time to skate, right? It's going to be dark and going, you know what? It's all right. I'm on a track. It's safe. You know, I'm going to go do 15 miles. I may not get 20 miles. I get 15 in, but I'll get something done, and having that discipline to hold myself accountable to something, and that applies to all the professional disciplines as well.
Very interesting insight. And with being a military, you know, in a military household, was discipline talked about, or was just kind of exemplified?
It was exemplified.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
It was the everyday. That was the thing. Like it was living an honor code and living to a higher purpose, something bigger than you. That was just what it was. It's how life was.
What motivates you, Lawrence?
Wow, that's a hard question. You know, it's an easy and hard question. I think at this point in my career, I truly want to leave this industry better than I found it. And I'm by no means done, right? I mean, by no means am I done. But you know, like I hear the experiences that others at events like this that they have, and I'm like, man, you know, I know that exact feeling. I can help with that.
Wow.
And I get a lot of energy from offering those experiences and engaging where and how I can. I get a lot of energy from the work that we're doing now in the CMMC space, because like I truly believe in a deep personal mission that I can arrest this theft of Ingenuity.
Wow.
I see it, and like we had a client that sent me a text at like 11 o'clock at night, just a couple of weeks ago, and we had observed some strange behavior, nothing out of the ordinary, but just like they had inbound mail scores that were low. Anyways, one of their vendors got hit, and you know, we reached out and went to our point of contact, and the point of contact was like, oh no, we know them. They've been a vendor forever. This is their normal operating procedure. And I made a call to the owner of the company. I said, hey man, like,
Want to show your love for discipline, inspiration, and the Joey Pinz podcast? Now's your chance. Introducing the brand new Joey Pinz merch store, where style meets discipline. Choose from premium apparel, cozy hoodies, stylish hats, durable bags, and your new favorite coffee mug, all featuring the iconic Joey Pinz logo. Perfect for podcast fans, discipline enthusiasts, or as unique gifts for friends and family. Every purchase supports the Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations podcast, helping us continue to inspire greatness and promote positive change. edge. Visit joeypins.com/store today and wear your discipline proudly. Joey Pins merch. Wear it, share it, and live it.
I don't know this company from Adam, but this is fishy. Like this looks like illegitimate.
Yeah.
You may want to reach out. And he's like, oh, it's like so hard. Well, he reached out to the owner of that company, and it turned out that their email platform was compromised.
Wow.
And there was a threat actor that was moving through the kill chain, working up to taking actions on their objectives, and we stopped it.
Wow.
So seeing when the criminals don't win,
Wow.
that motivates me. And I think on the personal front, it's the questions that my children and some of the students that I work with in a middle school, the questions that they ask around like why, like the when I have to twitch and I have to say like that's just how it is, and it's a legitimate injustice or a legitimate thing that you know, if we just fixed a few things, we could like, solve this problem. When I feel that twitch inside, I'm like, all right, that motivates me to make a change.
Wow. So I hear impact, I hear legacy, your motivation. So how do you measure success then?
Well, at work, at this point, it is how many wins do we get where we actually can point to something and say like we stopped a bad thing from happening. I've been quoted in probably too many times by everyone that works with me in saying like, what is the best possible thing that can happen if we do our jobs perfectly, right? What's the best thing? And that's that nothing happens.
Right.
Right? A thankless job, if there ever was one, right?
Right.
You do everything right, and nothing catches on fire. Nothing happens.
Right.
And so you know, success is seeing when we have wins. It's seeing like often years later, talking with the business owner or those senior leaders, and they like remember when we did da da da. It was such a bad thing. Like I remember that. One of my favorite motivations and like definition of success. We were working with a financial services firm, and we picked them up after they had a complete and catastrophic failure of their business. Right, all of their information systems failed. They had invested all the right money, they had all the right people, but they had never tested anything. And so we engaged. We went through all the business continuity work, developed test plans, implemented it, and I made a commitment to the principal. I said, listen, when we actually do this again for real, I'm going to bring you into the data center, and you can see that everything is off. All of the blinking lights are powered off.
Wow.
And you can know that your business is operating in a catastrophic failure situation. And it took almost 3 years.
Wow.
But going back into that data center in that moment, pointing to the rack and saying, you know what, like all the blinking lights are off. The whole room is dark. And that's success, right? Like living through the commitment of we're going to do a hard thing, we're going to do it together, getting across the finish line, and then being able to like celebrate the success. And it's personal success, but it's also the collective success. One of my favorite stories. So I teach and work with the middle school through a public-private partnership called McPie, McClintock Partners in Education, and we teach middle schoolers about STEM careers.
Whoa.
It's incredible, right?
Very cool.
It's absolutely incredible. So I had a kid years ago. No one really liked him, right? He was like in 7th grade. He had off the charts mechanical aptitude, right? Like you could hand him a screw and he could say, "Oh, it goes into that hole," right? Like he had just his mechanical aptitude was off the charts. Come to find out that he was homeless most of the year. He really didn't know where his next meal was going to come from. He didn't know where he was going to sleep. And because of that, he just didn't have a lot of social support. I rallied around this kid and I just showed his amazing aptitude and gave him some just belief in himself. Like, you're unique, and connected him with another mechanical engineer, just someone that's what they did. And it's like, you guys should talk. And fast forward like 7 years, he came back to that middle school program with a full ride to NCA&T in mechanical engineering.
Wow.
And I'm like, yes. So that's how I measure success.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Wonderful to see that all the way through.
It is.
Lawrence, I thank you so much for your time today. Anybody watching or listening, how can they get in touch with you?
Probably the easiest way is through my company, L. Cruciana at corp-infotech.com. Corporate Information Technologies, Corp Infotech.
corpinfotech.com. And of course, you're on LinkedIn.
I am.
We'll make sure to put that up.
Yeah, awesome. Hey.
Thanks so much, Lawrence.
Thanks for a
really
great conversation.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the conversation.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.